Hey folks, welcome back to another video. I want to show you a new update of my Melody Maker script that can generate nice melodies or sequences with just one click. And I added new features I want to show you in this video. So let's start by creating here a synthesizer on an empty instrument track. We add also convolution reverb and we add just a delay too, just so it sounds kind of nice. I remove here my key tracking and I want to use a wavetable here, and I kind of like or enjoy this Adventure Kit Serum wavetables here because you have at each index you have a completely different wave shape. So let's use this one. I also want to use here, I want to remove the fundamental and I want to bring in here the sine wave as a fundamental because some of these waveforms have different loudness and so on. So I want to use this. And then I want to create here a new note clip. Looks like this. Maybe I decrease here the sizing a bit. Let's go with this. And then I dial in your natural minor D sharp and I just hit generate new sequence. So I get some random notes. Okay, let's see how this sounds. Okay, so the first thing that I changed, and you can see this down here already, the timbre is randomized. Also the pressure is randomized and the velocity is randomized, okay? You can change this by going to this velocity, timbre, pressure, randomize parameter here, and it's at 70%, right? We can dial this down to 0 and then just generate a new sequence. And you can see all the velocity settings here are at, let me see, 50%. Timbre is also in the middle, pressure's in the middle, right? So you can completely disable this if you want to, just by dialing down here this setting. If you pull this up to 100%, of course you get randomized pressure, timbre, and velocity settings. So this was not in before. Before it was just randomizing velocity all the time. You couldn't change it, right? So this time you can change it. And with this, you can already do a lot of things. So you can influence the velocity, of course, which in this case here also changes the loudness, right? If you use this velocity sensitivity here. We can use timbre, for instance, here for opening up the filter. And we can use pressure for the index, maybe. So the sequence not only has different pitches, right, different velocity settings. With timbre and pressure, you can make it more expressive. At each point, you have a different, low pass setting or filter setting, a different wavetable index, and it makes it much more expressive. Then there's another thing, or I asked myself, here's actually this release thing, right? What is this? So if you open up the help, you can see it's called release velocity. And this is made for controllers that support this. So if you don't have a controller that uses release velocity or aftertouch, this is kind of useless. But it turns out you can attach this setting to notes from the controller scripts. So even though you can't edit this release thing here in the editor, you only have access to velocity, timbre, and pressure, and chance, gain, and pan, and so on. So release velocity is not in here, but from controller script, you can set this. So when this is at 100% here, or at something above 0%, then release velocity is also randomized on each of these notes. You just can't see it, but you can use it. So we can use here release, open up the filter. You can see that it moves on each note. I'm not 100% sure, but I think this release modulator is released or triggered each time you leave a note. I'm not sure if it's triggered with triggering a node or if it's just releasing a node. You have to figure this out for yourself, but at least it's doing something, and I can randomize the value for each node. So now you can use the full expression modulator. So then you can influence how much the expression modulator modulates all these things here by just adding a macro, right? Then you use the macro, you click on the whole expression modulator thing here. And then you can see on the left side pressure, release velocity is modulating cutoff, and so on. And we just click here on this name. And you can see down here the macro, right? This is our macro, changes how much the amount of this modulation. So you can change with this modulator now the modulation strength of each of these individual modulations here. So we can call this amount. So if you have this at 0 here, nothing is modulated. So even though you have this randomized, if you pull this down, nothing is modulated. So you can, fade in or morph between different modulation amounts with this. Pretty easy. Okay, so this is the randomization here. This is new. Also new is motif development, which is kind of an advanced version of repetition. So repetition repeats nodes, but motif development is more like I take the first 3 nodes, the first 4 nodes, the first 5 nodes, and so on, selected at random basically, and then I repeat these sections here, and I say this is a motif, right? Repeat this throughout my sequence. And it's not just repeating, I also move this up or down in certain intervals, and sometimes I play it backwards, and sometimes, I invert it, so upper notes or down notes, and so on. So just alternate between different versions of this motif and then repeat it throughout my sequence. So motif development goes up. You can see it looks more like an algorithm playing this, right? So it's probably more interesting if this is longer. So we can choose here how many bars, 2 bars, and this is also new. When you click now generate new sequence, the ending position here and the loop range is also changing. So watch this here, right? So it extends basically the clip length without you doing it manually. So now we can generate a new sequence here, and then we have the motif development in there. Maybe use here also note length variation. I have to do this a bit longer. So you get the idea. So repetition and motif development is kind of the same thing. Motif development is a bit more advanced, I would say. I just wanted to add it in there as an experiment. Maybe you can find it useful. So try it out, give me feedback. Splits 100%, fourth octave here, that's okay. Octave range, 2 octaves. So this makes it more spread out. Yeah. Then I added something called node channel count. So this is a kind of a problematic one because I run into API problems. If you switch this on and you hit generate, you can see here each node has a different MIDI channel on a node channel. So the first node has channel 1, the second one has channel 2, the third one is channel 3. So you can route different nodes to different devices or do different modulations to these nodes if you want to, here with the channel modulator, right? So you can see each node plays a different channel. And then you can use these modulators and do different things to each node. That's possible. What you can see here, the timbre is only modulating or randomize the first node. Also pressure, also velocity works kinda. I run into problems here with how you can set node data. I think the API is a bit buggy in these regards. I maybe can show you this later on in the video, what I did there. But when you choose here to use node channel count, timbre and pressure and release velocity is not randomized anymore. If you choose no, then it works. If you have yes, then it doesn't work. So you have to use either the one or the other for the moment. There's maybe a solution. Someone pointed me in the right direction in the API forum on the Discord, but I have to try it on the weekend. But yeah, you can now set also different, or you have a different node channel for each node if you want to. Then below that, we have rhythmic emphasis. So this idea is more or less to use important scale nodes on important positions, which means if this is at 0%, everything is just randomized. If you turn this up to 100%, then on important positions inside of the sequence, let's say the first position or this position here, right? The first quarter node. On this position, the probability of having a tonic node there or a fifth or fourth is dynamically increased. So it's not random then anymore, right? So we have here down there, the tonic is 30% chance of being played at a certain point. Then here the fourth and the fifth and so on, right? It's 20%. But when you turn this up here, then it's probably 100% for the tonic, for the fourth and the fifth, at the first position, at the first quarter node, the second quarter, and so on. So it gives you probably more better cadences or better melodies, whatever. Let's turn this down here. So you can see here, this is basically a fifth. This is not a fifth, it's the sixth here, or the seventh. This is here fifth, and so on, right? This is the fourth. So on strategic important positions, you have important scale and nodes. So this was the idea with this one. I have to change the loop length here. Okay, let's continue here. So this is rhythmic emphasis, also an idea I had, and I think it's maybe a good addition. So you can influence how the melody builds or how the sequence is built, right? Instead of just dialing in here probabilities for each different nodes. Down here, I added also something, the name clip. I think this was in before. So you can see this here. You press name clip and then you have natural minor D sharp, which is this what you select up here. Then we have generate new sequence, repaint sequence, and now there is also a button called generate alternative. So this is a temporary generation. So if you have generated your new sequence that looks like this, and you want to have a different alternate version from this, you can hit generate alternative. And it just changes a few notes in terms of pitch. You can do this over and over, and it gives you a different version, right? But you can always go back to the first sequence by using repaint. So this is the first, and this is kind of alternative. So it's in the or it's temporary. It's not like something I override my internal memory. With this, you can generate a sequence. You have a melody here, and then you can create, let's say, another clip here, go into this clip, and then say generate alternative here. And then, you know, move from this one to this one and back and forth, and or maybe use 3 repetitions of the first one, and then on the fourth you use an alternative version. Maybe interesting to you. I have no idea. I put it in there. Maybe at some point I need to rework this because the script is already so complex. I have to just take out the best ideas and make a new one maybe, and only use what works best. So maybe give me feedback on this because it's already pretty big here. I put this in the description below so you can download it for free and update. You probably run into problems. I already see the comments, but I also update my zip file so you can just download the zip file and put it into your controller scripts folder. You probably have to go in here, and sometimes it works, at least for me. Let me see where it is. Here's Melody Maker. Sometimes it helps just to switch this on. Off and on, switch it off and on again, and then it works. Sometimes you have to completely delete the script and put it back into the directory, delete this, and, you know, bring it back in. You find a way to make it work. It's a bit buggy sometimes, but for me it always works. Of course, I'm the developer, so yeah. That's that. What else can I tell you? Yeah, I also want to update here, of course, my chord maker and my scale maker pretty soonish. I have some ideas for that. So you can generate better and more chord progressions in different genres, right? At least that's my idea. So there's also an update coming soon. I'm working on this, and it's coming. I also want to show you here how it looks like inside of my editor. And yeah, I also see this here. That's basically my method of writing notes into a clip, right? I take the cursor clip, which is the current selected note clip, and then I just write notes into this clip. I can define a channel, a MIDI channel, a position, which is measured in 16 note steps. So 1 is the first step, 2 is the second step, and so on. And then we have here note pitch, which is the y-axis, which is measured in MIDI numbers, or yeah, I think on note numbers. So 60 is C3. Then velocity and note length. And you can't set timbre and pressure and release velocity. You can't do this. Maybe that's because this is the first iteration of the API when it came out 10 years ago. So when you want to set timbre and pressure to these notes, you have to first write this into a clip. And then I schedule here a task, which is just a delayed function call by 100 milliseconds, because I need to wait for this thing here to complete. So it writes all the note into the clip, and then I wait a few milliseconds or 100 milliseconds, and then I execute here the next method, which is called modify notes in clip. So this one here. And here I do the same thing. I iterate over all my notes in my internal array. So I go over each note, and then I get these notes back into the script from the note clip. And I need to define also here the note channel, note position, note pitch, and then the Rhythmic API gives me back basically the note. And then I can define on these notes the timbre, pressure, and the release velocity. So it's basically writing notes to a clip then waiting a few milliseconds, and then getting all these nodes back out of the clip, setting the new metadata and writing it back into the node clip, which is a bit tedious. But here something goes wrong with the getStep method, because when I have different node channels, let's say not MIDI channel 1, so a node has, for instance, node channel 2, I can get the right node back into with the getStep here. This works, but getStep reports me this node as node channel 0 or node channel 1, which is wrong, but I still get the right node. But it says it's the wrong channel. And then when I try to set the timbre, the pressure, and the release velocity, then it doesn't work anymore. So I can't set, I received the right node, but you can't set data on it. So I guess getStep is kind of buggy. But other people also reported this with the Java API, so it's basically the same there. So they pointed me in the right direction of using a node observer, which I haven't done yet. I probably do it on the weekend, so I make this a bit slimmer or a bit better working here. This is kind of a workaround. So this is why when you select here this node channel count, pressure and timbre and release velocity is basically not randomized, because this is giving me back the wrong information here. So that's why this is, and I want to show you this. Anyway, not super important, only important for me. So you can download this in the description below. Link is there. Just download the whole zip package, unpackage it into the controller script directory, and then have some fun. And next week there are coming updates to Scale Maker and Chord Maker. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.